Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a totally mind-bending hypothetical scenario that completely flips our understanding of the ground beneath our feet. We're going to explore what would actually happen if our planet, which has literally been in constant motion for billions of years, suddenly came to a dead halt.
So what if the Earth suddenly stopped spinning for, say, just 5 seconds? I mean, when you really think about it, 5 seconds sounds completely harmless, right? It's just the time it takes to take a deep breath or glance down at your phone. It feels like an absolutely insignificant blip. But as we're about to see from our source material, those 5 seemingly harmless seconds could actually change life on Earth forever.
Okay, let's dive into this. To really wrap our heads around the chaos of a sudden stop, we first need to establish the baseline reality of our planet's normal, everyday behavior. You know, we live on a globe that feels entirely stationary to us. You're probably sitting still right now, and the world outside your window looks perfectly calm. But that stillness? It's a massive illusion. We are actually experiencing a deceptively fast spin right at this very moment.
1670. That's the massive speed, in kilometers per hour, that the Earth is spinning at right near the equator. Just process that for a second. Over 1,600 kilometers per hour. That is literally faster than the speed of sound. The planet is just ripping through space, spinning on its axis at a velocity that's kind of difficult for the human brain to truly comprehend, mainly because it completely contradicts our daily physical experience.
So why on earth don't we feel it? Well, we don't feel this immense supersonic speed because we and absolutely everything around us are moving in perfect sync. You, your house, the trees outside, the oceans, and the very air you're breathing are all traveling at that exact same speed of 1,670 kilometers per hour. Because everything's moving together, there's no friction or resistance to tip us off to the incredible speed of our planetary vehicle.
But now, I want you to imagine a sudden, catastrophic variable. Imagine hitting the absolute hardest set of emergency brakes imaginable on that planetary vehicle. A complete, abrupt halt of the Earth's rotation for just a 5-second pause. The spin goes from 1,670 kilometers per hour down to absolutely zero, instantly.
To understand the nightmare that happens next, we have to define the core physics problem at play here, which is momentum. As our sources point out, buildings wouldn't just instantly collapse because the Earth's rotation stopped. The crust stopping isn't actually what crushes a structure. The real terror comes from the momentum. It's the continued movement of the atmosphere and the oceans after the solid rock beneath them has abruptly anchored in place.
Now, what's really interesting about this contrast is the immense, violent discrepancy it creates. The Earth's solid crust drops to 0 kilometers per hour instantly, but the oceans and the atmosphere? Nobody told them to hit the brakes. They're still moving at their original speed of 1,670 kilometers per hour. You suddenly have an unstoppable force violently scraping across an immovable object.
Because of this incredibly violent discrepancy, the oceans and the atmosphere are suddenly unleashed. Since they aren't anchored to the now stationary ground, they just keep going, completely detached from the rotation that previously kept them in check. And this triggers an immediate, chaotic chain reaction across the entire globe.
Let's see how this actually builds, because it triggers a truly terrifying sequence. Since the atmosphere continues moving at its original massive speed, it instantly generates supersonic winds that would just scour the surface of the Earth. We're not talking about a severe thunderstorm here, we're talking about winds moving faster than the speed of sound. And the water? It completely follows suit. The massive oceans, retaining all that rotational momentum, surge forward in unison directly toward the coastlines.
The immediate consequences of all this momentum are absolutely severe. Massive ocean surges would cause widespread coastal flooding in regions all across the globe. Meanwhile, the weather becomes extremely unstable as the atmosphere violently readjusts itself. And, depending on how violently sudden the stop actually is, loose objects and vehicles would be affected in a huge way, effectively turning into high-speed projectiles. Even though the pause is only 5 seconds, the destruction unleashed by the sudden release of momentum would be utterly dramatic.
But let's shift this thought experiment just a bit further. What if it wasn't just a 5-second pause? What if that sudden stop became a much longer or, even a permanent halt? If a brief pause is a sudden disaster of momentum, a permanent stop introduces a completely different, long-term nightmare for our stationary planet.
If the Earth stayed stopped, the entire length of our day and night cycle would change completely. One side of the planet would be locked facing the sun, experiencing incredibly long periods of relentless sunlight and scorching heat. The other side, facing away from the sun, would be plunged into unending, freezing darkness. This extreme polarization would make life as we know it anyway incredibly difficult, if not entirely impossible over time.
All right, after exploring the utterly terrifying physics of supersonic winds, massive surging oceans, and apocalyptic extremes of heat and cold, I think it's time for a much-needed reality check before we completely lose our minds over this scenario.
Fortunately, science offers us a massive sigh of relief here. This isn't expected to happen in reality. Earth's rotation is incredibly stable. The immense celestial mechanics that keep our planet spinning at 1,670 kilometers per hour aren't just going to suddenly fail us. We are absolutely safe from the sudden 5-second halt and the supersonic winds it would unleash.
But you know, even though we know our planetary vehicle is safe, exploring this science really highlights just how finely tuned and honestly fragile our existence truly is. We depend completely on that invisible perfect sync, which leaves us with this final chilling thought to ponder. If the impossible somehow happened, if the Earth truly did stop even for just 5 seconds, could humanity survive? Think about it. Thank you for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking questions and never stop exploring the incredible science of the world around us.